Hi folks, happy Friday to you all. Let us begin with what I've been reading this week. I'm pleased to say that any sign of a reading slump has been banished. Clearly it's a matter of which books I choose to read. And it's interesting to note that all of this week's books, which I've read, are from the last 10 years or so. No vintage books. So what have I actually read? I finished Usurpation by Sue Burke. So this is the third book in the now badly named Semiosis duology. All three books explore sentience in plants. The first two are set on Pax, a colony world where humans initially struggle to survive. And they're greatly assisted in this by a stand of rainbow bamboo that they name Stevland. And in return, they teach Stevland science and mathematics and about the wider universe. Both the first two books deal with the developing alliance and codependence of humans and Stevland on Pax. And at the end of the second book, Interference, some divisions of Stevland are sent back to Earth with the secret instruction from Stevland to protect and dominate when they get there. And there's a nice epilogue at the end of the second book, which details the squabbling plants' attempts to establish themselves in a research institute once they get to Earth. How do these three small plants achieve their objective? That's effectively the story of the third book, Usurpation. I kind of missed Pax, but it was interesting to be back on Earth. We're in the 2800s, where things are well on the way to unravelling. We're in Europe mostly, and the geopolitical situation is quite different to today's. Something called the insurrection has been running for years and years. Small city-states and principalities, factions or whatever, are vying for control on the continent. And in the midst of all this are robots, some of whom have gone wild with unknown intentions. There are refugees and people just trying to get on with life as best they can. I found myself thinking that I'm not surprised that the original colonists named their new planet Pax, or Peace, a chance to start again if that's what was going on back home when they left. There are some interesting aspects to the book. I like the very asynchronous communication with Pax, which is a return journey at light speed of 110 years. And I like the robot plot thread, such as it was. They're all shapes and sizes. Some amenable to human or bamboo control, and some have declared independence and gone wild, as I said. I enjoyed the dynamic between Levanta, who's the main bamboo character, and her two bamboo siblings. Levanta eventually runs rings around her domineering sisters. Now, I won't say too much more about this book now, except to say that I did enjoy it, and there will be a full review nearest to publication, and I hope to get Sue Burke on the channel for a chat nearer to October when it comes out. Sticking with the ladies, next I read Before Mars by Emma Newman, which is the third in the Planetfall series, but the fourth that I've read. I read them in the wrong order. This is a psychological thriller. It's set on a small science outpost on Mars, and the protagonist is Dr. Anna Kubrin, who's spent months travelling alone from Earth and has just arrived on Mars to be the resident geologist and official artist for the base. She soon finds a note in her cabin that warns her not to trust another crew member, and even stranger, this note is painted in her style and is signed by her, and she's certain that she wrote it but has no recollection of doing so. How could she have? She's just arrived. This is only the first of several strange things that cause Anna and others to question Anna's mental well-being. Her fellow scientists worry that she's suffering from delusions due to spending too much time in immersives, both games and videos, on the journey across to Mars. However, Anna begins to settle in and get on with the business of exploring Mars and preparing material for her commission from the billionaire that owns Mars. He wants to sell her paintings for huge amounts back on Earth. More anomalies, though, are found by Anna, and she struggles to convince the others that something is going on, that things are not what they seem, that they've been deceived by somebody or something. But why? Answering those questions is the crux of the plot, and there are some nice links to people and events covered elsewhere in the other books, but the biggest links of all are saved for the end of Before Mars. I enjoyed this book, perhaps not quite as much as Planetfall or After Atlas, the first two books in the series. There is also, I gather, a short story collection, Before, After, Alone, which sadly you can't get in actual book. It's only available self-published in ebook form. And I hear on the proverbial grapevine that she is working on a new book, but I've no idea what that's about or when it might come out. The details for that are scant at this point. Next, I tackled Howling Dark by Christopher Rocchio, which is the second part of the Sun Eater series. I actually didn't think that I would finish this in time for this update, but let's just say that some of my work priorities took a back seat to me getting through the final 150 pages of this today. I really couldn't put it down. I enjoyed the first book a lot, but I think this one is even better and was even more of a page turner. Where Empire of Silence had some obvious fantasy vibes, I think Howling Dark was all space opera, albeit rather gothic in tone. Nearly 50 years have passed since the final events of Empire of Silence, much of it in cryosleep, but for 12 of those years, Hadrian Marlowe and his friends and accomplices have been fighting their way across the galaxy, establishing a reputation for their cobbled-together mercenary Red Company, all with the goal of tracking down the Extrasolarians. These mysterious groups are not part of the Empire, they live out in the dark. The Extrasolarians are believed to know the whereabouts of Vorgossus, home of the legendary Khan Sagara, the oldest living being and eternal, who in turn is believed to have connections to a faction of the Cielcin, the aliens of the piece. Marlowe is tasked with establishing contact in the hope of making peace and stopping the Cielcin's relentless destruction of the Empire's worlds. Nearly 1,000 have been destroyed and billions are dead, or even worse, missing. On reaching Vorgossus, there are elements that reminded me of Book of the New Sun. There are lots of mysterious, very old structures, along with strange beings, both biological and robotic. It was quite trippy. The final 200 pages of the book cover what passes for negotiations with the Cielcin prince and its entourage. I loved how superficially similar they are, and yet how wildly different, alien in appearance, in deed, and in thought. I also love Hadrian Marlowe as a character. He endeavours to do the right thing, but many times it just goes pear-shaped and he leaves a trail of chaos and destruction in his wake. He is, however, over the course of the first two books, getting more mature as the story progresses. The story is told in the form of a chronicle. Hadrian Marlowe is telling us his story, and Christopher Rocchio, the author, makes good use of this to foreshadow events that are yet to occur, opening story loops repeatedly that I couldn't wait to close. I fear I can tell what's going to happen. I'm going to race through the next few books that are available, and then I'm going to have to wait until the matching paperback of book 6 is published, maybe later this year. And then I'm going to have to wait a whole year or something like that until book 7 arrives. If you like a widescreen space opera with a deep backstory, a heroic but flawed main character, strong and capable female characters, and some really alien aliens, and you haven't already read the Sun Eater books, and you aren't allergic to books over 200 pages in length, then I heartily recommend this series to you. So far, I absolutely love it. Finally, I'm about 2/3 of the way through Market Forces by Richard Morgan, which I've been listening to in fits and starts on audiobook. I'll say more when I've finished it, maybe by this time next week. It's excellent and not at all how I thought it would be. It's got more than a hint of Mad Max about it, which I truly wasn't expecting. So tell me, what have you been reading this week? Anything you want to recommend to me or the others? Let me know down below in the comments. Channel stuff next then. Subscriptions are at 2,538, which is up 28 on last week. And as usual, if you're one of those 28, or if you've stumbled upon my channel today, then a very warm welcome to you. I'm John, and I focus on buying, collecting, and reading, mainly, science fiction books, old and new. Comment of the week this week was from user Unfriendly in response to my book haul video. He gives some praise and some insights into the Greg Bear books, Infinity Concerto and Serpent Mage, and then goes on to wax lyrical about Contact by Carl Sagan, which blew his little mind apparently, only to be later gravely disappointed by the Jodie Foster movie, which I quite liked. I wonder if it will work in reverse for me. I hope that the book is as enjoyable for me as it is for him. I have a bonus extra comment of the week from the weekly update last Friday. One of a number of folks that mentioned it. Cheryl, or is it Cheryl? Cheryl, I think, who appreciated me giving a few pointers to some videos that I'd watched and enjoyed during the week. Maybe it'll become a regular feature. After last week's away trip, this week on the channel something like normal service was resumed. On Sunday there was a book haul detailing my continued mission to create a singularity in my library, a gravitational well just due to the sheer mass of books on my shelves. If you want to see a slightly flustered guy witter on about new editions, the accretion disk of this particular bibliographic black hole, then this is the video for you. In a change to the advertised programming, on Wednesday there was a look at the aforementioned Planetfall Quartet by Emma Newman. I give some thoughts about the way that the books are constructed, each with quite different premise and plot drivers, but yet similar in tone and bearing a strong family resemblance. And I then give an overview of each book. I haven't done a standalone review for ages, and now I remember why. Very few people watched it. Never mind, I enjoyed doing it. In the last weekly update, as Cheryl observed, in the absence of any content from me, I mentioned a few things that I'd enjoyed watching during the week, and it was nice to give a shout out to some YouTube friends, and I think that this can be a recurring segment. So this week I enjoyed Richard at Vintage SF's overview of the Ace Specials, the first series, which he's recently finished reading. Richard gives a nice summary of the series and points out some lovely artwork and gives his top 3 reads from that collection. I watched Ira at SF Words of Wonder give his thoughts on the first culture book that he's read. I've read them all, several more than once, and I'm really jealous of anyone reading their first one. It would be really great to experience them all for the first time. Something I can never do now, Ian M. Banks having shuffled off this mortal coil more than 10 years ago now. It's very inconsiderate of him, frankly. I also watched Matt over at Bookpilled give a 3 for the price of 1 review of some books that he's read recently. I like watching Matt, but at the same time, he's so good, it's rather intimidating. His review of Christopher Priest's Inverted World was so much better than mine. Okay, so it was one of my very earliest videos, but still, my efforts were very village standard next to Matt's big league, almost a different sport, in fact. I imagine anyone watching this already knows of Matt's channel, but if not, head over to see how it should be done. Finally, Robin over at Bookspin gave a characteristically thoughtful review of 3 books that he's read recently, Gateway, Spin and Children of Memory. I've read 2 of those, Gateway and Children of Memory, and I want to read Spin, so I was interested to hear what he'd said. I'll put a card in this video for each of these, and I'll put a link in the description to each one, so you can head over after you've watched this and give them a look if you haven't seen them already. Are there any booktube channels that you'd recommend that I might not know about? Do let me know in the comments. I'll be interested to add them to my viewing itinerary. All right, what's next? Book buying. Well, mostly this week I've been a good boy. I've bought just a few things online, maybe half a dozen, and a couple of things that I ordered way back have finally arrived, in one case coming over from the US. I'm mainly keeping my powder dry for the paperback book fair on Sunday. There is a danger that I'll go completely crazy bonkers in there, so I'm going to go in with a list, books that I want, gaps to fill, that kind of thing. And once I've found some of those, then yes, I expect I'll go completely crazy. I'm expecting to meet a few booktuber folks while I'm there, so that would be a nice bonus. Maybe they can help carry my books. Looking ahead to the coming week, on Sunday there might be that 1990s space opera video that I didn't quite get around to this week. And with the book fair eating into my video production time, that might not happen until Monday or Tuesday, but I am working on it. There will be a book haul video, the results from my book browsing whilst I was in Yorkshire last week. And I'll also be taking a look at what I plan to read next month in April. After a month or two of being a little bit too ambitious and not quite finishing my TBR, I think I'll be more selective this time. And if I read all of those, then I can always add more. It's my birthday at the end of this month, so some of those extra books may well be birthday presents. What's that you say? If only there was a way that you could buy me a birthday present. Wow, look no further. You can find a link to my Amazon wishlist in the description for this video. No, don't feel obliged. Your continued viewing of my channel is gift enough for me. No, really, honestly. Reading wise, in the coming week, I will be finishing, I hope, Market Forces, and then I think I'll head back to the 1960s and tackle Thorns by Robert Silverberg and Make Room by Harry Harrison, and then we'll see if I've got time for anything else. If you enjoyed this, then let me point you to some other videos that you might enjoy. And as always, thank you for watching, and until next time, goodbye for now.